Believe it or not, you can retire in a much shorter time than 40 years. This is a really interesting topic and somewhat controversial because it's not taught by our parents, school or society, but it's the truth. I'm about to show you exactly what you need to do and why 99% of our society finds it impossible. Now before we get into it, it's important to know that it will not be easy, and the reality is that most people don't know where to start, but by watching this video, you are already ahead. And the first and easiest thing you can do is to hit that like button if you appreciate this information. The first and most important thing is that your salary does not matter. How much of your salary you get to keep is what matters. 41% of those earning between $150,000 and $200,000 annually lived paycheck to paycheck in 2022. This just shows how people fall into the trap of lifestyle inflation and why they will never be able to retire before the age of 65. On the other hand, there are people that manage to save 50% of their salary after tax, which means they can retire in 17 years. If you manage to save 70% of your income, you can retire in 8.5 years. This brings me to the first rule of being able to retire in 10 years. Saving. No, I'm not going to tell you to save and invest 10% of your salary because we want to retire in 10 years, remember, not 40 years. Well, how much should I save and when will I know if it will ever be enough? Let me introduce you to the times 25 rule. Let's assume you want to make $50,000 a year without working. Now we need to multiply that $50,000 by 25, which gives us $1.25 million. The whole idea behind the times 25 rule is that you take your desired annual income and multiply that by 25, and that is the amount you need invested at a minimum of 4% return in order to retire and not work another day in your life. The idea is that you will withdraw 4% annually without ever running out of money, because 4% of $1.25 million is $50,000. Now you might be thinking, how on earth am I supposed to save up to $1.25 million in 10 years? I know it sounds impossible, but it is possible if you approach this with the right mindset and are willing to make a lot of sacrifices. When I was 20, I started investing 30% of my salary, which was difficult at the time because I was only making about minimum wage. But luckily very early in my life, I adopted the mentality of living frugally and saving as much as possible. I realized that by delaying gratification early in my life, I can retire early and live life to the fullest while I'm still able to do so. This brings me to number 2, which is staying away from high interest rate debt. This goes hand in hand with saving because in order to start saving, you will have to pay off your high interest rate debt first. Most people don't realize how high interest rate debt is holding them back from their financial goals. If you have debt with interest rates as high as 50%, you will need a 15% return on investment just to break even, which is nearly impossible in today's markets. Personally, I try to never carry a credit card balance. If I decide to buy something on credit, it's with the sole purpose of improving my credit score, and I try to pay it off in full each month. I will also not finance anything I can't afford. The only time debt is a good thing is when it's attached to an asset that is making you money. Otherwise, I would recommend you stay away. Now I'm going to let you in on one of the secrets of the rich and how they use debt to make more money. They all start where we do, by saving, investing and accumulating assets until they reach a certain point, which is when you reach your times 25 figure. When they reach the point where they are able to live off a percentage of those assets, they never have to sell those assets. But Charl, if I don't sell my assets, how will I access my money and why did I invest in the first place? To look rich on paper? No. You see, the rich then borrow money against those assets at an interest rate that is much lower than the rate at which their assets will appreciate over time. They then use that borrowed money as spending money to maintain their lifestyle, and here's the big catch. Unlike wages and salaries that most people use to pay for living expenses, borrowed money is not taxed. Now this is why we need to accumulate assets as fast as possible so we can start using the tools that make the rich richer. It is more expensive to be poor than to be rich. Remember that. So now that we're avoiding high interest rate debt and saving as much as possible, we need to start making our money work for us by starting investing. I know investing sounds quite complicated and that most people don't even know where to start, but it really is quite simple. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, but I would recommend that everyone just start by just taking advantage of their 401k, their Roth IRA and HSA. And for my fellow South Africans, just start by maxing out your tax-free savings account every month. 2. Invest consistently long-term no matter what the market conditions are. Decide on a set percentage of your salary and invest that every month. 3. Do not try to time the market, and don't let your emotions influence your behavior. My best recommendation would be to invest in a low-cost index fund such as the S&P 500, and ideally do so by setting a debit order so you will never have to think about it. The less friction there is involved, the more likely you are to stick to it, and the less likely it is for your emotions to influence your behavior. If you are starting out with $0 and you want to retire in 10 years, this means that you will either have to make a lot of money or save and invest the majority of your income. To put this into numbers, it's entirely possible to retire in 10 years, but you will have to save and invest 65% of your income, considering that your expenses will stay the same. Now, as you can see, this will be very difficult for anyone working a traditional job, and this brings me to my next step, starting a side hustle. This is definitely more important than saving money and a much faster way of getting to your retirement goal. Starting a side hustle is the fastest way to increase your income, and the growth potential is exponential. If you want to retire in 10 years, the most efficient way would be to increase your income so you can save and invest more money, which will bring you faster to your times 25 figure. My best piece of advice would be to work harder on yourself than you work on your job. If it was easy to retire in 10 years, everyone would be traveling the world and relaxing on the beach at the age of 30, but it isn't easy. It is also not impossible, but in order to do so, you will have to bring value to the world, detach your time from your income, and start making passive income. The day you start making money while you sleep is the day you reach financial freedom. Now, if starting a side hustle seems like a daunting task and something you are not willing to do, my only recommendation would be to work a job that pays you based on your results and not your time. If your income is attached to your results rather than time, it increases your earning potential exponentially and can bring you to your financial goals much faster. Now, let me give you the numbers so you can start working towards them. If you are 20 years old and find a way to average a $150,000 annual income after tax and live off $22,000 a year, you can retire at the age of 30. I realize this sounds like an impossible feat, but you can start by learning new skills, starting a side hustle, and increasing your income. If you can lower your spending while increasing your income, you will get to that goal much faster than you could ever dream of. It will take consistency, discipline, and a lot of sacrifices. But for those willing to commit to this goal, you will be able to retire and experience all life has to offer at a much earlier stage in your life. And to me, that sounds like a good deal. There's a quote by Jim Rohn that I live by. We must all suffer from one of two pains, the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. The difference is discipline weighs ounces, while regret weighs tons. Don't choose the pain of regret and consider subscribing to my channel. It is absolutely free and well worth the investment. Now, if you want to get rich, watch the next video where I discuss what I consider to be the best book about making money. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon.